But the reality here, Amy, is that if you step back from it and you look at the situation, Blackwater's role in Iraq is completely secure. I mean, what we learned through this in a very clear way is that this occupation cannot continue without Blackwater. It's now ceased to be just a political dedication on the part of the Bush administration to these kinds of companies. It literally is now the case that they couldn't do the work of the occupation without Blackwater. I mean, just to give you a sense of some staggering statistics on this, the United States State Department has armed security operatives that are full-time employees of the United States government. They're called diplomatic security agents. Blackwater works as a privatized diplomatic security force. In Baghdad right now, Blackwater has 2/3 as many armed operatives on U.S. State Department contract as the State Department has full-time diplomatic security agent employees in the entire world combined. So that means that just in Iraq alone, Blackwater has a force that's equal to 2/3 the size of the entire State Department armed security force on planet Earth, including in Iraq. And so if you say, well, Blackwater's contract should be canceled, as some have called for, then the question becomes, who's going to do their job in Iraq? The military said it doesn't want to do that because it conflicts with the mission of the United States military. The State Department says it would take 2 to 3 years to recruit, train, and vet a force of that size. And Blackwater's competitors don't seem to have the personnel to step in and fill Blackwater's role. So Blackwater's Vice President Martin Strong, Erik Prince, and others, they actually don't even need to have this debate anymore because the money's in the bank and the boots are on the ground.
But Erik Prince was asked about the killings. In October, the Blackwater founder and chairman, Erik Prince, testified before Congress in his first extended public appearance. Prince was called before the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform.
But actually, he wasn't really asked about this because when Prince was called to testify because of Nisour Square, and then what happened is that the FBI announced the morning of that hearing that they were going to do an investigation, and then they asked Henry Waxman, don't bring it up during the investigation because you could contaminate the investigation. And so Erik Prince was supposed to be there to answer questions about it, and that morning it was like a Hail Mary pass from the Bush Justice Department, so it was off limits. And Henry Waxman, who's been very good on this issue, agreed not to raise Nisour Square during the discussions.
Well, in his remarks, Prince repeatedly denied Blackwater contractors killed civilians. He was speaking more generally. This is Illinois Representative Danny Davis.
You do admit that Blackwater personnel have shot and killed innocent civilians, don't you?
No, sir, I disagree with that. I think there's been times when guys are using defensive force to protect themselves, to protect the package they're trying to get away from danger. There could be ricochets. There are traffic accidents. Yes, this is war. You know, since 2005, we've conducted in excess of 16,000 missions in Iraq, and 195 incidences with weapons discharge. In that time, did a ricochet hurt or kill an innocent person? That's entirely possible. But again, we do not have the luxury of staying behind to do that terrorist crime scene investigation to figure out what happened.
That is the founder of Blackwater, Erik Prince. Jeremy Scahill.
I mean, this is typical of how he operated during those days after Nisour Square. You know, he was yanked out of his very comfortable sort of secrecy and forced to testify in front of Henry Waxman's committee, and then he went on this sort of PR blitz. Erik Prince, the owner of Blackwater, where he did largely softball interviews with sort of fawning interviewers in the corporate media, and he portrayed Blackwater as this sort of American pie, patriotic company. He used phrases like "the bad guys, our men bleed red, white, and blue." He was sort of like, you know, Batman emerging from the cave to save the the good people from the evil villains, and that is sort of a cartoonish description of what Blackwater does. And the idea that the only people Blackwater has killed in Iraq are people who've died as a result of traffic accidents and ricochet bullets. I mean, ask the families of the Iraqis who are now suing Blackwater in a United States court in a case brought by Susan Burke and the Center for Constitutional Rights. This is a deadly serious case that families families of the Nisour Square victims have brought against Blackwater, and they're alleging not only that we have wrongful death and assault here, but that there are actually war crimes that Blackwater has committed in Iraq, and they're not alone in that allegation. There are legal experts, international law experts, constitutional law experts in this country that say that the appropriate way for the United States government to respond is to prosecute these individuals under the War Crimes Act. Now, that would require us having probably hundreds of different individuals in the United States Congress and a totally different president, one with a will to actually enforce U.S. law, when it even is the case that his cronies are being alleged to have committed crimes. But Erik Prince said shortly after this that he sleeps the sleep of the just. No, he sleeps the sleep of a man who knows that his business is going to be very secure, whether there's a Democrat or a Republican in the White House. One of the most pathetic things that happened during that hearing where Erik Prince was there was watching the members of the House Oversight Committee who were Democrats reading the report, the investigative report done by the committee for that hearing during Erik Prince's testimony. The Democrats were completely unprepared, and in reality, Erik Prince sort of won the day. He was able to avoid having to talk about Nisour Square, which was what brought him there in the first place, and he was never faced, with few exceptions, with a very substantive follow-up to the things he was saying, some of which were totally untrue.
What about the killing of the vice president's guard?
I am so surprised that this has not gotten more attention. On Christmas Eve 2006, an off-duty Blackwater contractor was at a holiday party and was allegedly drunk and sort of stumbling through the green zone. His name was Andrew Moonen, and he encountered an Iraqi bodyguard to the Iraqi vice president, Adel Abdel Mahdi, and something happened between the two of them, and he ends up shooting this individual dead, fired multiple shots at him, and so you have a off-duty Blackwater contractor shooting and killing a bodyguard to the Iraqi vice president. The response of Blackwater and the Bush administration was to whisk this individual, Andrew Moonen, out of Iraq within, I think, this is 2 or 3 days of the shooting, back to the United States. Now, Erik Prince said that they fired him and that when his employees break the rules, they have one choice, window seat or aisle seat. But in fact, this man, Andrew Moonen, Prince said that he got his security clearance revoked and that he would never work again in the Middle East, but or for a U.S. contractor. The fact was that just months after he allegedly killed that bodyguard, he was back in the Middle East working for another war contractor where he remained for months.
Jeremy, I want to go to New York Democrat Congressmember Carolyn Maloney. She was asking Erik Prince about that December attack.
Have any charges been brought against him in the Iraqi justice system?
I don't believe in the Iraqi justice system. I know we've referred it over to the
Justice Department. They told us they're still looking at it 9 months later. Have any charges been brought against him in the U.S. military justice system?
I don't know.
Have any charges been brought against him in the U.S. civilian justice system?
Well, that would be handled by the Justice Department, ma'am. That's for them to answer, not me.
Other than firing him, has there been any sanction against him by any government authority? You mentioned you fined people for bad behavior. Was he fined for killing the Iraqi guard?
Yes, he was.
How much was he fined?
Multiple thousands of dollars. I don't know the exact number. I'll have to get you that answer.
Okay.
Look, I'm not going to make any apologies for what he did. Okay, he clearly violated our policies.
All right. Every American believes he violated policies. If he lived in America, he would have been arrested and he would be facing criminal charges. If he was a member of our military, he would be under a court-martial. But it appears to me that Blackwater has special rules. That's one of the reasons of this hearing.
Again, he was fired. Justice Department was investigating in Baghdad. There is a Justice Department office there. He didn't have a job with us anymore. We as a private company cannot detain him. We can fire, we can fine, but we can't do anything else.
Blackwater Chair Erik Prince. Jeremy.
See, the thing here, I mean, there is some nugget of truth to Erik Prince's response here, because it's not just Blackwater's responsibility as a company. Ultimately, Blackwater is fruit of a very